Good afternoon, everyone. North Atlantic sea surface temperatures down. This would be the Atlantic 60-year cycle. They don't talk about that in the climate debate too much. But these next successive water pulses entering the Arctic are going to be cooler and cooler, which would explain why it's growing sea ice. It's just not going to melt from beneath. Now, with all these gargantuan changes coming to our food growing across the planet, you can see why Syscoin, the third Anonymity coin, was just hacked. Yellow boxes are the ones that have been hacked. The rest of the list is Anonymity coins, which allow you to buy, sell, trade anonymously. Digital wealth management, meaning cryptocurrency, expected to eclipse 1 trillion by 2022. Problem is, millennials, they're not buying gold. They don't trust banks. They don't trust the stock market. They're going into crypto. But anonymity coins, you can't tax that either. Sovereign cryptocurrencies, meaning national governments issuing their own, blistering pace in this. But Japan outright bans all anonymity coins. I wonder why. Beyond the tax is all Bitcoin transactions, Bitcoin futures, ETFs in the stock market, that can all be taxed and traced. But the underlying layer, which I really believe in my own opinion, is this National Defense Resources Preparedness Act, Executive Order 13603 from Obama. The national government can confiscate anything and everything, and you better be careful not to flag your purchases. Looking out to the solar activity forecast up to 2045, declines below 50 sunspots, let's bring that in. We're looking at something like a 1.5 degrees Celsius drop planet temperature-wise. We see this in the ice cores, that volcanic ash layer. These are cycles. More ice on Greenland, which is an outlier. Nobody wants to talk about this. But your anonymity to protect yourself while you get ready for the grand solar minimum is of utmost importance. Choose wisely. And during this time, you're absolutely going to need to grow some of your own food to supplement these rising food prices. Radish sprouts, sunflower sprouts, you can grow those indoors. Learn how long it takes to sprout out a batch before you can eat it. And the Adapt 2030 link for TrueLeafMarket.com, as well as the links to all of tonight's images and stories, are in the description box below. Start you off over here in the North Atlantic. And it's pretty much well known through the climate circles, if you will, that Atlantic water temperatures drive the northern hemispheric temperatures. Let's take a look first here at sea surface temperature anomalies, global. But I really wanted to focus in on the North Atlantic because this is what's causing the rebound in sea ice this year. So to show you the boundary areas on the map now, over to the left side here, we have the United States and Canada, the Maritimes, and then sort of in the center, that's the very tip south of Greenland. And then when we move over to the right side of the chart, you'll see Western Africa, Spain, and then parts of England, Scotland, Ireland there. Now, first to note, these are in degrees Celsius, which is far deeper in the cooling than Fahrenheit. So I thought, okay, it's great to see it visually, but can we find it in a chart form? So here we go, showing you the temperatures below baseline at 0.0. That black line through the center, that's the actual baseline, if you will. 1981 to 2010 average. Notice the cooling that's coming off since, let's say, late April into July as we speak, July 8th. Please understand that this North Atlantic, it's called the Atlantic Multidecadal Oscillation. It's on a 60-year cycle. Now, they don't talk much about this in the climate debate, so let me widen it out here. This goes from 1850 up to our present day. Now, you can see it's up and down, in its 60-year cycle. Now, this Atlantic water temperatures also drives surface temperatures, and it also is responsible for the amount of ice that's in the Arctic. And amazingly, when we look at the 1930s, when we had the Dust Bowl era, it was at a high as well. Now everybody's talking about melting sea ice, and look, it was at a high as well. I wonder if there's any correlation. But anyway, back to the visual graphic here. Now that blue, what you see up there, that's the water that's going to be forced into the Arctic Circle. Now what I mean by that, this is great research by David Dilley, who I'd also done an interview with. He's in my playlist. You can check that out. Epic 2 hours of us talking about how these Arctic water pulses are going to affect the amount of sea ice, and in turn, how cold that will make the winter further down in North America and also Europe. Now, if we go way back to the 1990s, we can take a look and see that that water pulsing up there was at least 1 degree Celsius above the baseline in that prior chart that I showed you. And then in 1999, it was 1.2 Celsius above that baseline. So, of course, that's warmer water under the ice, which was melting it from beneath, as well as the surface temperatures above. So you had a pancake melting effect, if you will, from beneath and above. Now we're coming into what I just showed you with that cooler water pulse going in there. That's a degree below. So what's going to happen? Let's take a look. 2018, July 7th. There's much more ice up there in terms of thickness. See, that's what they're not talking about. They can try to fool you with the numbers on the edges, but they're not talking about thickness. And I always wonder why. Because when you're looking at the red at 4.5 meters, those of you in the United States, that's 13 feet thick. That's even on coastal up there as well. Center, that green, that's still 9 feet thick. So I thought to myself, I wonder what it would have been compared to 2017 in the thickness. Because if David Dilley's predictions are correct and that cooler water is going to be underneath the ice, not allowing it to melt as it was through the last 3 pulse water cycles, we should be seeing thicker ice. 2017. And you're thinking, David, I wish you would put those together. So I did. Here we go. Right side is 2018, July 7th. Left side is 2017, July 7th. Now I want you to notice right in the center there over the North Pole, literally around 90 degrees north latitude, notice the big red striation in 2018. That is still 13, 14 foot thick sea ice comparatively to what was in 2017. Also notice northern Greenland and that coastal area still have that red there, but the yellow is much thicker in its band. And remember that yellow is at least 10 to 11 feet thick, 3+ meters. And I'll let you pause the chart here because this is just in your face. Huge difference from just a single year. And when this new pulse is going up, bringing in all this cool water, and we're having this rapid of an onset of thickening ice, this is not going to melt. You cannot tell me that by the end of the melt season coming up in less than 2 months, that 12-foot thick ice is going to melt. And that'll be a nice base for next year's ice to start to nucleate around. Coming over here, European Space Agency also showing some sea ice, but they don't exactly give you the coordinates of where it is in that coastal area. I'm going to say it was in that same area west of Greenland, northern Canada up there. But you have to think that this is coastal ice. This should be the first ice that's melting, and here we are, what, July 8th, and it's still this thick? Interesting. Because in 1999, this would have been totally gone already. Absolutely gone and melted away because of the difference in the sea surface temperatures and the water being pushed under the ice. Now let's see, this is where the two worlds combine. I'm in firm belief that the governments of our world are going to try to limit what you can purchase, but they're going to want to track everything that you purchase as we get ready for this grand solar minimum. We're into the rollover years right now where there's still that push and pull between the global warming crowd and the person's talking about global cooling and the different mini ice age and grand solar minimum. I mean, this is probably the 1 to 2 year period where both sets of information are coming out. They're contradictory, but soon it's going to be very apparent in your face that we are moving into cooling, and this affects our crops, and this in turn affects all food prices. So let's jump over here. Digital wealth management market size. Global is at the bottom here. It's not really digital wealth management. Let's just change that word digital into cryptocurrency wealth management. That's less than 4 years away. So what are the gains going to be in this? And that's one thing I want to talk about first is the governments want their taxes, period. And that'll be the first layer of the onion, if you will. Now we need to strip back another layer because Bitcoin itself, eventually with the AI algorithms, they're going to be able to backtrack every single transaction hash and get their taxes. Guaranteed, maybe not this year, maybe not next year, but 5 years, 6 years out in the line, for sure they'll be able to have some algorithm running back and making sure you pay your taxes. CBOE, any kind of Bitcoin futures, of course it's going to be taxed. You got to go through an exchange to get that. ETFs, exchange traded funds, of course, it's right in the stock market. They're going to get their taxes, not a problem. Thanks for watching. Hope you got something out of the video. I also run the weekly podcast, Mini Ice Age Conversations, where I post 3 to 4 times a week, longer, more in-depth commentary with interesting guests, all about the grand solar minimum, where we're going with food pricing. And please remember to subscribe and click that bell if you got value out of this video. I'm trying to grow the audience on the road to 100,000 subscribers. Help me get there. The social media feeds that I do go through, especially Twitter and Facebook, there's a constant roll going on there, posting about every 3 hours. Things that I don't normally put in the videos, but when I'm researching a video, I'll actually grab those links and still throw them in, even though I don't highlight it here or screen grab something to show you. There's an enormous amount of value in those feeds there. Adapt 2030 on Twitter and Mini Ice Age on Facebook.